Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and this is the World Report, and here are the top headlines. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth has confirmed that US forces struck another alleged drug trafficking boat in the Caribbean, killing 3 and raising the total death toll from the campaign to at least 70. The UN Security Council is voted to lift sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. US Ambassador Mike Waltz stated that this move signals that Syria has entered a new era. US President Donald Trump announced that an international stabilization force for Gaza would be deployed very soon as part of his peace plan. The US has drafted a UN Security Council resolution authorizing a 2-year mandate for transitional governance in Gaza via the ISF. The White House has reportedly blocked NVIDIA from selling its newly developed scaled-down B30A AI chips to China. The chip, capable of training large language models and clustered systems, had already been sampled by several Chinese firms. According to Afghan officials, at least 5 Afghan civilians have been killed and 6 injured in cross-border firing at the Chaman-Spin-Boldak border with Pakistan. Meanwhile, Pakistan has reported no casualties. Both nations are now trading blame. Explosions have been heard near the army-controlled Sudanese capital of Khartoum, as per reports. Meanwhile, the RSF has hinted at a possible ceasefire, though the Sudanese army-led government has not commented on this. Rapid support forces have reportedly agreed to a humanitarian truce proposed by US-led mediator group Quad. This comes more than a week after RSF seized Al-Fasher. The death toll from Typhoon Kalmegi in the Philippines has risen to 188, with most fatalities reported in Cebu. Authorities have stated that 135 people remain missing and 96 injured, though the figures are still being verified. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Iran has now strongly condemned Israel over what it describes as savage attacks on Lebanon following Israeli airstrikes in several areas in the country's southern region. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has urged the United Nations, the international community and regional partners to confront Israel's strikes. It's branded them as warmongering. It's offered condolences to the families of Lebanese civilians killed in the strikes. Israel stated that it targeted several Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon, claiming that the operation was aimed at preventing the group from rearming after suffering major losses, including the death of its leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Israel and Lebanon signed a ceasefire agreement back in November 2024 to end more than a year of hostilities, although Israel says that it retains the right to act against Hezbollah threats. Joining us is Professor Ephraim Enbar, Senior Researcher at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. There's a statement that has come out from Lebanon and the Lebanese army, to be very specific, just a while back. The Lebanese army has claimed that Israel is carrying out these strikes in order to delay the deployment of the Lebanese forces in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, the IDF claims that it's targeting Hezbollah positions. Where do you see all of this headed to?
I think that it's quite clear that Hezbollah is not ready to disarm in accordance with a ceasefire agreement that was reached by the United States, France, and the Lebanese government. And there is no other choice but to employ the Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah. Israel is not willing to tolerate a military buildup by Hezbollah in Lebanon. We suffered enough, and there is a clear change of policy in Jerusalem. We are not allowing the development of large threats beyond our borders, and we act accordingly.
Indeed. Speaking of action itself, we'd seen there was some momentum being built a couple of months ago, about 2-3 months ago, when the United States was pressurizing Lebanon to in turn pressurize Hezbollah to disarm. Nothing. Tom Barak, clearly reflecting the United States' frustration with the Lebanese government. He branded Lebanon as a failed state. Do you concur?
I think the Lebanese government is reluctant to use force against Hezbollah because of domestic reasons. The United States is exasperated with the Lebanese position. And to some extent, what Israel is doing is trying to convince the Lebanese government that it should do what it agreed to do in order to be a state. If it has no monopoly over use of force, it's not a state. It wants to continue to host a terrorist army in its midst. It cannot expect peaceful relations with Israel.
Indeed, and there's another development happening very soon on the 10th of November, that is Monday. We're learning that Donald Trump will be meeting Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara. The United States has also managed to get the sanctions against al-Shara lifted as well in order to facilitate his visit to the White House. There have been murmurs about a security framework and the U.S. pressurizing the Syrian leader to enter into a security agreement with Israel. Knowing Trump and knowing how he is, could we expect a major announcement after the meeting?
It's too clear to say. We know that the Syrian current government has conducted negotiations with Israeli representatives about some kind of security agreement. It remains to be seen if the two sides reach an understanding. As there was a report that the Americans are going to have some kind of force in the Damascus airport, maybe this is a sign that we are progressing toward a Syrian-Israeli agreement, but it's too early to say.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time and sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus further to East Asia. Japan has strongly condemned North Korea's latest ballistic missile launch, lodging a formal protest through diplomatic channels in Beijing. Tokyo has confirmed that Pyongyang fired the missile towards the Sea of Japan, marking its third such launch within a span of 2 weeks itself. Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara has stated that Japan strongly protests and condemns the provocation, calling it a clear threat to regional peace and security. He has added that Japan will work closely with the United States and with South Korea as well to monitor any further North Korean actions, including the possibility of a new nuclear test as well. Listen in to comments made by the Japanese Cabinet's Chief Secretary.
北朝鮮は本日12時34分ごろ、北朝鮮西岸から1発の弾道ミサイルを東方向に向けて発射しました。詳細については現在、日米韓で緊密に連携して分析中でありますが、発射された弾道ミサイルは最高高度約 50km 程度で、約 450km を超えて飛翔し、落下したのは朝鮮半島の東の我が国の EEZ 外であると推定しております。今回の発射については我が国として北朝鮮に対し、北京の大使館ルートを通じて厳重に抗議し、強く非難をいたしました。政府としては引き続き米国や韓国等とも緊密に連携しながら、必要な情報の収集分析に努めるとともに、警戒監視に全力を挙げていく考えです。
Joining us now is Dr. Astha Chadha, Associate Professor of International Relations at Ritsumeikan University from Kyoto. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Earlier in the day, we'd seen a statement from Japanese Prime Minister Takeichi. She had informed that there was no damage related to the missile. In the meantime, Japan's Coast Guard also reported that the missile already fell. In fact, a similar incident, as we know, last occurred on the 22nd of October as well. What do you make at the outset of this frequency of North Korea testing these missiles? Are they of concern, and what does this indicate?
Thank you for having me. Well, I mean, if you look at the trends and the way the frequency, as you mentioned, of North Korea's provocative actions, whether it's testing missiles or whether it's, trying to give out statements against Japan or the US allies in the region, the Japanese response in that regard appears very standard. Every time there is a nuclear testing from North Korean end, Japan responds by doing more analysis of the situation and condemning it, of course. But what's interesting is that North Korea relentlessly continues to test and refine its missile technology. So, of course, such missile testing in a way projects North Korean superiority or North Korean capabilities in the region. I feel there's also this inherent element where North Korea tries to undermine the alliance because, both Japan and South Korea, they do seem to work on issue-based partnerships, but their relationship is not very, close either. Though both of them are very close allies of the United States, there was always history-related issues that keep recurring between Japan and South Korea. So to that effect, I mean, the Japanese response and standard. What is actually very interesting is that because North Korea's missile testing is not the only issue between Japan and North Korea. I think the more pressing issue ever since Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has taken office is the fact that there has been abduction of Japanese citizens into North Korea, right?
Yes.
And her statement stating that she is willing to hold a summit level meeting, that would be very historic. I assume that more security discussions would also take place in that meeting, but that is probably the announcement that is catching headlines here in Japan.
Indeed, and that's not all. We've also learned that Japan has lodged a formal protest through diplomatic channels in Beijing. Of course, China, considering its proximity with the Kim Jong-un regime, could play the role of intermediary. But considering what's taken place recently, the sort of back and forth we've seen between China and Japan with regards to Sanae Takaichi's very hardline position against China. She is a China hawk. She's been very vocal about it as well. Apparently, the Chinese took offense to comments made about Taiwan at the APEC summit in South Korea when both leaders had met there as well. Do you think Beijing will follow this up very seriously, or are they likely to use this then as leverage?
Yeah, I mean, it is very unlikely that we could expect any short-term or, even in the medium term, very hard outcomes coming out of China taking any action in support of Japan. I think that is precisely one of those reasons why Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has taken it upon herself. I mean, it's been over 2 decades since the previous Prime Minister. I mean, it was more than 20 years ago in 2004 when the previous Japanese Prime Minister met with the North Korean leader. So her stating that she would be willing to do a one-on-one direct face-to-face meeting or a summit level talk with the North Korean leader, in a way says that she's trying to, get into a very direct communication and try to resolve this decade-long battle of abductees that has been stretching on, because they do not really want a third party, or they do not really trust a third party to make any strides or progress in those dialogues.
Indeed, and to add to this, we've recently seen Donald Trump conclude his very successful visit to Japan. He's also stated that missiles would be arriving, United States missiles would be arriving as well to further bolster Japanese defense capabilities as well. Speaking of missiles, there have been murmurs of Japan modifying its warships as well. Keeping in light not just an expansionist China, but also the real threat of North Korea as well. How do you think Japan is then positioned along with South Korea to counter this?
Yeah, I mean, see, there is already a mechanism in place when we talk about Japan, South Korea, and United States dialogue. They already have that trilateral mechanism in place, and it only serves a collective security and an alliance purpose for United States to be of aid to Japan. And as you mentioned very recently, I mean, President Trump's visit has been seen as very successful in Japan as well, because he got what he wanted in terms of the deals and Japanese massive massive investment, including the one in shipbuilding. And in return, what there have been internal talks here at least in the political circles, that Japan needs to in some way strengthen its own defense capabilities, given that the North Korean threat is not going to die down anytime soon. And that includes some sort of a missile defense system. So if that really does come to pass and Japan is able to procure those defense capabilities in some way, I think this is going to bolster or support the regional or the East Asian security architecture that the United States has for a long time tried to build.
Indeed, and speaking of this trilateral mechanism, we've also seen a meeting between Xi Jinping and Lee Jae-myung of South Korea. Apparently, Lee Jae-myung, he has been extending an olive branch recently to the North Koreans. He's been rebuffed constantly. There were statements made earlier at the Oval Office as well, with Trump seeking to meet Kim Jong-un. In the midst of all of this, he's gone and met Xi Jinping, and they've both spoken about the increased militarization taking place in North Korea, as well as the question of a nuclear armament of North Korea as well. Which brings me back to the question, what does China stand to gain from doing this, and what are Japan's concerns?
Yes, I mean, see, again, for China as well, it's not that difficult to understand that China also views United States as an outsider in the East Asian security architecture. China views the US military presence in the region also as a threat, right? And then on top of it, you have US military very close at home, very close to the Chinese border when we talk about South Korea. So given that sort of a scenario wherein China, South Korea, Japan are in some way entangled both in economic interdependence, but at the same time in territorial and maritime disputes over islands. It is very difficult. It has been a challenge for United States to maintain the stability of this trilateral framework and to make sure that, bilateral political issues or history-related issues between South Korea and Japan do not in any way overpower the overall security objectives that United States has been trying to achieve. Now, given that there has been this lingering threat of North Korea procuring nuclear capabilities or in some way militarizing along the border. I think South Korea's response in terms of trying to, as you said, extend an arm of friendship towards China and in the region is again an attempt for South Korea to maintain its both regional as well as even domestic security in some ways, because there's a lot of anxiety among people given the proximity that South Korea has to North Korea. Similarly, in Japan, people are very concerned about North Korean aggression, specifically with regard to missile testing. But at the same time, a very domestic issue, but that's a burning issue here, is that of abductees from Japan. And that has, again, both these issues have been stretching for decades. So whether it's through President Donald Trump or whether it's through Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, if there were to be a meeting that would take place, a summit level meeting with the North Korean leader, and if that does generate some results, it would be seen very, very positively in the region because it would be a major breakthrough.
Indeed. With that, ma'am, I'd like to thank you for taking out time and sharing your perspective on this development. We will continue to track it, but in the meantime, we're tracking further developments, this time from Thailand. We're now learning that the Miss Universe pageant was rocked by controversy after contestants, including reigning Miss Universe Victoria Jair Thielving, had walked out to support Miss Mexico Fatima Bosch, who was publicly insulted by Miss Universe Thailand's director Nawat Itsaragirsil. In a viral video, Nawat berated Bosch for not promoting Thailand on social media, calling her a dumbhead. Take a look.
No, not about you. Not about you. Not about you.
It's not about me. It's about all the people that I represent.
I didn't give you opportunity to talk. Please keep polite for me. I still talking. I still talking. Listen. I still keep talking to everybody. Why you stand up to talk to me?
Because I have a voice and it's not for everybody to talk to me. If you have a problem,
No, you have a voice, but you have to respect. The voice.
you are not respecting me as a woman.
What? No, why you stand up?
Because I have
Where's the gun? Security. No, just leave it here. She stand and she talk by herself.
country, and it's not my fault that you have problems with my organization.
No.
And I give you my
Listen.
respect.
Listen. You must listen to me, and then when I ask you,
This is not so. This is the wrong thing.
stop. Stop. Security. ปิดประตู Stop.
Bosch has meanwhile fired back, stating that you are not respecting me as a woman, before leaving the event as dozens of contestants followed in protest. The Miss Universe organization has condemned Nawaz's behavior and has announced that his role will be reduced, while he later apologized, stating that he was under pressure. While crying, Nawaz has stated the following.
I think you must understand the pressure is a lot. I am the human. Sometimes I cannot control. I have not intended like that very much to harm anyone, because I respect all of you, but sometimes I have to say, I am so sorry it's happened.
Raul Rocha, Cantu Miss Universe president, also weighed in. He vowed legal action against the host for insulting Mexico. Listen in.
Quiero expresar mi solidaridad y apoyo incondicional a todas las delegadas que representan a los 122 países en el certamen de Miss Universe, en el cual Tailandia es nuestro país anfitrión. No permitiré que los valores de respeto y dignidad hacia la mujer sean violentados. Instruido a nuestro CEO Mario Búcaro para que emita un comunicado en nombre de la organización Miss Universe, donde detalle todas las acciones corporativas y legales que llevaremos a cabo como consecuencia y resultado de la serie de actos malintencionados cometidos por parte de Nawaz.
All right, viewers, more news coming in from the economic front. Within the United States of America, the U.S. government shutdown has now entered its 37th day, making it the longest in U.S. history. Just today, the Trump administration announced a 10% reduction in flights at 40 major airports, citing concerns over air traffic control due to unpaid federal employees. Now, the FAA Administrator Brian Bedford has described the measure as unprecedented in his experience, reflecting the new territory that the ongoing government shutdown has reached. Now, at the same time, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is facing a legal battle that creates uncertainty for millions relying on food stamp payments. A court order requires the Trump administration to continue payments, but the White House has clarified that recipients may receive only partial funds, which again could also be delayed. Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has pushed back against the federal court ruling, arguing that the court should not instruct the president on funding decisions during a shutdown. Additionally, the Justice Department has announced an appeal, leaving the future of SNAP benefits in limbo for millions across the country. According to reports, the Trump administration has been planning to fully cut off SNAP payments for approximately 42 million Americans as a result of the shutdown, leading to multiple lawsuits asserting that benefits must continue. With us on the broadcast is Major General A.K. Sewaj, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time, speaking to us on NewsX World. This has crossed the record. It set a record, this particular government shutdown, as far as the duration is concerned as well. Losses are being pegged now at billions approximately as each week passes by. There are, of course, a lot of concerns that analysts have with regards to both the Democrats and the Republicans digging their heels in and not coming back to the negotiating table to try and bring about a solution. Trump has called for the removal of the filibuster rule as well, which is hampering his budgetary bill. Where do you see this headed next?
You know, it is very unfortunate that this time this shutdown is more than 37 days, and it's the longest in the history of US. And now the total collapse in the government functioning has taken place. Now, if, in fact, airports you find becoming very difficult for the flights to operate, and there is a cut down of almost 10 to 20% of domestic and international flights. Now, the point which is happening is that the onus lies on the government to compromise with the opposition. The Republicans have to understand that Democrats plays a major role in this. Unless you do not negotiate with your Democrat, representative, you will keep on having this for a longer duration. Now, the impact of this shutdown is colossal. It is impacting the economy of the country. The inflation is as it is very high, unemployment on the increase, and with this shutdown, the jobs of a lot of people have gone. Now the payment cannot be made to them. So therefore, the point is a complete collapse of the economy of US, and it seems the relationship between the government and also its opposition, the Democrat Party, is to the lowest. There doesn't seem to be any meeting point until unless they find out a solution, and the shutdown will not, will be over. And if it is not over, if it keeps on prolonging for another 10 to 15 days, you'll find it will have a tremendous adverse impact. And you already, the economy of US is struggling. There is, though US economy is about 31 billion trillion dollars, but it has got a debt of 37 trillion dollars. As it is with tariff they have imposed on various countries, including India and Brazil, which is about 50%. The inflation has gone very, very high. And on top of that, when you find the shutdown taking place, people losing jobs, you find the airport, there's a chaos and confusion. There's a loss, there is a lot of traffic restriction which been put. The airports are functioning with only 20% of their manpower, and the flights have been cancelled. So there's a chaos and confusion everywhere, and it shows that the present government, the administration of Donald Trump government is not able to negotiate with the Democrats, and that is a very, very poor sign. You have to give and take, and the onus lies on the government of the day, and the government of the day is the Republican, and it is basically you can say Trump administration which has to compromise with the Democrats. But unfortunately, nothing seemingly happening, and the result you can see it as on today. There's a chaos and confusion in total US. You find people are now coming on the streets also in many of the cities and representing and basically challenging and protesting against what is happening.
Yes.
But one can say with a lot of conviction, what is happening in US is not been seen in years before this, and unfortunately they are going from bad to worse, and the economy of US will suffer in case if the shutdown also closes, and you find again the administration coming onto the track. But the impact which has already taken place will remain there for time to come.
Indeed,
But,
and a lot of economists are talking about a double whammy, considering the fact that Trump's tariff policies have also resulted in prices of goods being increased. I'd like to thank you, Major General Sivaj, for taking out time and explaining that to all of our viewers. Meanwhile, in New Jersey's Leonia, Bergen County and the Community Food Bank have distributed emergency food boxes to federal workers and SNAP recipients affected by the U.S. government shutdown. Volunteers have reportedly handed out boxes of fresh produce and pantry staples to about 2,000 families, as officials have warned that the need could grow if the shutdown continues. Listen in to what a few county officials and SNAP recipients have had to say.
It's horrific what's going on, but thank God that even our country like Bergen County is doing this. But it's awful, I still know you may not put that in there. I support President Trump and what's going on. So let's open up the government. It's a clean bill.
That's what keeps me up at night. That's what has been for the last 3 weeks, as this has been a political football, as we seem to be having inaction and this as targeting our most vulnerable. It's just devoid of humanity. We are so grateful to be partnering with the Community Food Bank in New Jersey to distribute to 2,000 families who are on SNAP or who are federally furloughed employees a box of fresh produce and a box of shelf-stable food to tide them through this really stressful and trying time. It's estimated about 43,000 residents, 25,499 households in Bergen County, that are on SNAP benefits.
More news coming in. We're now learning that at least 54 people have been injured following an explosion at a mosque inside a school complex in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta. Police say that the tragic blast occurred during Friday prayers in the Kelapa Gading area of North Jakarta city. Police Chief Asep Edi Suheri has stated that those who were injured suffered burns and other wounds ranging from minor to serious as well. Authorities have cordoned off the area and have deployed a bomb squad to determine the cause of the explosion. Now, so far, officials have not confirmed whether it was an accident or a deliberate act of terror. Police have also set up help posts at 2 hospitals to assist families of the injured as investigations continue into what caused this tragic blast. Well, viewers, that's all the time we have for. We will continue to track all of these updates on the World Report, but for now, we're dipping into a quick short break.